Outlander Season 7 has just ended, and I'm speechless. I was expecting a lot of things from this episode, but not this twist. Not certainly. I think this was one of those times when book readers were just as confused as non-reader fans of the show. So, you're telling me that the stillborn child, who was presumed dead, actually lived, thanks to Master Raymond? I mean, that's a huge twist. What a revelation. It raises so many questions, doesn't it? It seems that she not only survived but had a full life of her own. She gave birth to 2 children, built a family, and lived through experiences that we're still trying to understand. But then, something went horribly wrong. Her kids ended up in a brothel, a place of desperation and despair. What on earth could have happened to her for her children to wind up there? It's a heartbreaking thought, really. I've got a lot of theories swirling in my head about all of this, and I'm dying to explore them and try to make sense of it all. How could Faith, a child who was thought to be stillborn, have possibly known that song? The same song Claire sang to her when she was just a baby? Could it be that the time-traveling element is at play here in a way we haven't yet fully understood? I'll dive into this and share my thoughts on how Master Raymond might have saved her, brought her back to life, and why he would keep such an enormous secret for so long. How could he possibly have done this, and more importantly, why? And let's not forget the massive plot point that's left me reeling. Why, oh why, would the writers allow William to sleep with his half-niece? I mean, just, why? It's a pretty unsettling twist, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. What does this mean for William's character and his relationship with Jamie, and how does it all tie into the larger narrative? On top of that, Starz has just released a sneak peek of Season 8, and I've got to say, I'm both excited and nervous about what's coming. We'll take a look at that too, of course. So, buckle up, folks. Let's dive in and unpack this madness. Ready? Let's start, shall we? Roger and Bree. I couldn't say whether this is on the grounds that I have a cold and my body isn't feeling great, however I cried such a great amount in this episode. When it's all said and done, in any event, seeing Roger and Bree at last getting together, having that embrace, and Roger inquiring as to whether they're genuine, these were all very elegantly composed, ardent minutes. What's next for them? Indeed, I think this was laid out in their last scene, where they talked about when they had a place. Bree referenced how she missed her folks and how it would be abnormal assuming they remained in 1739 since youthful Jamie would return from college, and so forth. They would have no desire to get back to the 20th hundred years to confront Ransack Cameron once more. So I in all actuality do anticipate that they should time travel to the 1780s and track down Jamie and Claire at Fraser's Edge toward the start of Season 8. What is your take? Claire's alive? Obviously Claire's alive. The main thing we didn't know was the amount they would keep us standing by to see Claire's destiny, and say thanks to God it wasn't excessively lengthy. Yet again Jamie had a few famous lines, similar to "My blood, your blood, it's our own now." Now that he's not returning to the military, it's sure that Jamie will take Claire to Fraser's Edge at any rate. That was the arrangement before Claire said faffed. I actually figure they will go to Fraser's Edge, however they will get some information about Francis and Jane's folks, maybe in the whorehouse where they were working. We could see an examination storyline before the family resettles in Fraser's Edge. I'll discuss this in a moment. Jamie and William. Even though it ended with William breaking Jamie's heart by telling him he would never call Jamie father, I loved how William got to hear about his mother, and Jamie got to be by his son's side during such a difficult moment. All William had heard about his mother were negative traits, but Jamie was able to tell him how bold and confident she was. I think William needed to hear that. They're still years away from closure, I think, but he's going to Jamie for help. Jamie acting so nice to Francis and taking her in will definitely act as a way to change Jamie's image in William's eyes. Just like Lord John implied in a previous episode, people are not just heroes and rebels. It's more complicated than that, and I think William will begin to see this other side of Jamie, a side that is passionate, brave, and fatherly. I do expect them to get closer in Season 8, but do let me know if I'm being too naive. Jane, Francis, Faith, and Master Raymond. Where do I even begin with this storyline? You have to accept that the little flashback scene at the beginning of the episode was not a good sign, with younger Jane and Francis hugging their mother. That was the first sign that something big was coming. Then, Claire seeing Master Raymond in her dream. So this was my understanding from what we were told in this episode. Francis and Jane had a mother they really loved. Her name was Faith. Apparently, she loved dragonflies and thought that dancing lights were actually 100,000 angels dancing. She believed if you waved at them, they'd reach down and carry you up to heaven. Last week, I was so curious about the title of episode 16. I have to say, I definitely didn't expect this explanation. We learned why Jane was waving at the sky after drinking at night. She was hoping those angels would reach down and carry her up to heaven. That was probably the moment she knew she was going to unalive herself. But we didn't know. Going back to their mother, something must have happened to her, because we know that Jane and Francis end up in a brothel at a very young age. Finally, we know that Faith knew a song written in the 20th century, a song we previously heard from Claire. So, is this Faith the same Faith that Claire gave birth to in season 2? Or is Claire reaching, because she hopes that her first daughter is still alive somehow? Is her assumption a misunderstanding caused by her continuing grief over her dead child? There are a few possibilities. I should first tell you that in the books, there's no confirmation that Faith is alive. After seeing the locket and the picture inside, Claire thinks about the possibility of Faith being alive. She even sends young Ian to ask the brothel owner about Jane's parents, but nothing really comes up, and the subject is closed. They just believe it's a coincidence that this woman's name was also Faith. However, now it's obvious that the show is taking a different approach. In season 2, it was Mother Hildegard who baptized and wrapped little Faith for burial. So one possibility is that Master Raymond stole the child from her grave and brought her back to life somehow, deciding to keep this a secret for decades without telling Claire. Perhaps Mother Hildegard also knew about it. She heard Claire sing that song to Faith, and so she might have later repeated it to the girl. Diana Gabaldon already confirmed that Master Raymond is a time traveler himself, so it's possible he heard the song when he traveled to the 20th century. Otherwise, we don't think a stillborn baby could fully remember a song she didn't hear, right? Also, I can understand bringing the child back to life. Master Raymond was a healer, too, and maybe he had some supernatural healing abilities. It wouldn't be strange in Outlander, but I don't understand the motive. Why would he bring that child back to life? Why would he let Claire and everyone else think she was dead? Is it because he didn't want anyone to know about his abilities, but still didn't want that girl to die? It's possible. Another possibility related to the song is that Faith herself may have heard it in the future. Given that she's Claire's daughter, she must have inherited the time-traveling gene, a characteristic that has been passed down through generations. This gene has allowed members of the family to move through time, so it's plausible that Faith, too, could have been part of this cycle. It's entirely possible that Faith time traveled to the 20th century, where she encountered the song that Claire once sang to her. Being from the past, Faith might have found herself drawn to that song, and it could have resonated with her deeply, sparking memories of her time with Claire. When she returned to the past, perhaps this song became something she shared with her daughters, passing it down as a kind of legacy and echo from her time-traveling journey that connected her to the mother she never got to know. However, even if Faith did somehow manage to grow up, live her life, and eventually have children, there's the question of what happened to her. As much as we might hope for a happy reunion, the fact that her daughters ended up in a brothel suggests that Faith herself likely didn't survive long enough to raise them in a stable environment. This tragic turn of events implies that Faith may have died prematurely, whether due to circumstances related to her time-traveling existence or because of some unknown threat or tragedy in her past. If she had been alive, there would be little reason for her daughters to end up in such a harsh, grim place. The brothel serves as a grim reminder that Faith, for whatever reason, couldn't stay in one timeline or couldn't make it to the future where her family might have found her. So, regardless of whether she lived long enough to grow up and experience motherhood, Jamie and Claire's search for their lost daughter seems to have come to a dead end, as even if she had lived, she would have been lost to time and circumstance. This opens up a whole new layer of complexity to the mystery of Faith's fate and the possibilities of how time travel, fate, and family intersect in the world of Outlander. Of course, another possibility is that this is all a coincidence, and Francis and Jane's mother learned that song from another time traveler. Honestly, I don't know how this twist will work. What purpose will it serve in the final season? Did Faith really live, or is everything a coincidence? Do tell me your theories as well. I can't wait to have a discussion. What I don't want to talk about is the impossibility of William sleeping with his half-niece. I just can't. R.I.P. Rollo. Before moving on to Season 8, I have to say, R.I.P. Rollo. You were so thoughtful to wait for the arrival of another baby to let go of your own life. As someone who has a cat and cannot even stop herself from crying when imagining his death, that scene was especially difficult to watch for me. You were the best boy, Rollo. You will be missed. Season 8. So, Starz decided to release only a few seconds of a clip from Season 8. It starts with a shot of the Stones and Jamie's voice. He says, "When the day shall come that we do part, if my last words are not I love you, you'll ken it was because I didn't have time." Well, this is great, but it isn't new. You'll remember that it's actually from Season 5, Episode 12. They're standing on the porch of the house in Fraser's Ridge, and Claire tells him, "I love you." This is where Jamie says those iconic lines. So I think the fact that they included these lines in this very short teaser for the final season means that we'll see a return to Fraser's Ridge in Season 8, as expected. And since he's mentioning his last words, that could be foreshadowing his last words in Season 8, as it's the final season. I, for one, am not ready to hear Jamie's last words, and I don't like that Starz is teasing not only the end of the show but also the end of the characters. Does this mean Jamie is going to die in the final season? Do tell me your thoughts. We luckily also have this shot of Jamie and Claire from the final season. To me, this is from a rebuilt house from Fraser's Ridge. As you know, they were planning on rebuilding their house in a different place. I assume they did that and are already living there. As for the release date, Starz says coming soon, but Blood of My Blood is coming this summer. Season 8 has to be out after that, so either late 2025 or early 2026. I wish I had more. I have leaks from Season 8 and spoilers, but you're going to have to watch my other videos to find out about them. There will be one for you to click on at the end of this video. If you also want a breakdown of the new Blood of My Blood teaser, subscribe to my channel. The video is coming tomorrow. Love you.